here, your storytelling narrator, and today I am back with few exciting, fascinating stories of Lord Ganesh along with the morals. Okay, so my dear kids, stay connected with me and listen to the stories of Lord Ganesh very attentively. Okay, we worship him. So let's start. Amongst a multitude of gods that are present in the pantheon of Hindu mythology, Lord Ganesh is perhaps one of the most popular ones. His idols are omnipresent in nearly every corner of the country, and there is huge interest around celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi. That might also be due to the very source of the name Ganesha, which has been formed from the two words with Gana, means the masses of people, and Isha is used to refer to a god. This quite literally makes Ganesha as the Lord of Masses. Lord Ganesh has been worshipped for many years, and his stories have gained quite a lot of popularity among people. Okay, so I am going to divide the story in two parts. Okay, so in the very first part, let's start with the story of his birth. We can start the story with the birth of Lord Ganesh. Okay, so it begins like this. Lord Shiv and goddess Parvati would stay on Mount Kailash, making it their abode. Most of the time, Shiv would be out fulfilling other responsibilities while Parvati was alone at the mountain. Goddess Parvati would be alone at the mountains, right? Lord Shiva would be out fulfilling the other responsibilities also. One day, on such a similar occasion, Goddess Parvati had to go to take a bath and did not wish to be disturbed by anyone at all. Goddess Parvati ended up making a statue of a child from turmeric and breathed life into him. She called the child Ganesha, and he was absolutely loyal to her. She asked him to guard the home while she took a bath. Yet again, Lord Shiv showed up and proceeded to enter the house, but this time he was stopped by Ganesh, who refused to move aside. Lord Shiva did not know who this unknown child was, so he asked his forces to destroy the child. But Lord Ganesh had the powers bestowed on him by Parvati and defeated Lord Shiva's army. Lord Shiva, known for his extreme fury, lost control on his temper and ended up beheading Lord Ganesh. When Parvati goddess stepped out and saw the dead body of her creation, her fury knew no bounds. She lashed out at Lord Shiva and threatened to destroy the entire universe as a consequence of those actions. Now the universe was the responsibility of Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. Lord Brahma witnessed the wrath of goddess Parvati and apologized on behalf of Lord Shiva to her, advising her to not destroy the universe. Goddess Parvati relented on the conditions that God Ganesha be brought back to life and be worshipped as the primary god. Lord Shiva, to realize the mistake he committed in his rage and apologized to Goddess Parvati. He advised his trip to go into the forest and get the head of the first animal they spot. Incidentally, they came across an elephant and brought back his head. This was then placed over the body, and Lord Shiva brought him to life, also accepting him as his son. This is how Lord Ganesha was born, as we know, and is now worshipped as the god of gods. So, my dear kids, what is the moral? The moral is, as much as the story talks about the birth, it teaches us an important lesson on how anger can cause harm to our nearer and dearer ones, and how necessary it is to rectify our mistakes as soon as we can. So we should all rectify our mistakes, right? And don't be angry so much. Now we move to the next part, which is the story of the missing conch. This is a wonderful story that showed how evil Lord Vishnu had to relent to Lord Ganesha's antic. Vishnu, Lord, was known to have a conch with him that he kept with himself all times, every time. One fine day he noticed that the conch was missing and it was nowhere to be found. This got him extremely annoyed and he rallied all his powers into finding the conch. As the search for the conch was on, Lord Vishnu suddenly began hearing the sound of the conch emanating from a distance. He began searching for it in that direction and soon realized that the sound was coming from Mount Kailash itself. As he reached the mountain, he found out that the conch had been taken by Lord Ganesh and he was plowing it. Knowing that Lord Ganesh will not relent easily, he sought out Lord Shiva and asked him to request Lord Ganesh to return the conch back to him. Right, Lord Shiva said he too didn't have any power of Lord Ganesha's wishes and the only way to appease him is to perform a puja for him. So Lord Vishnu did do that. He set up all the necessary elements for the puja and worshipped Lord Ganesh with his heart. Seeing this, Lord Ganesh was extremely pleased and he returned Lord Vishnu's conch back to him. So, my dear kids, what is the moral of the story? The moral is the story quite interesting, reveals the fun side of our Lord Ganesh and his antics. Furthermore, it teaches us about humility by showing how God, as great as Lord Vishnu, did not hesitate to worship Lord Ganesh. Okay, so now kiddos, let's go to the third part, which is the stories of Shiva's Lord field battle. Lord Shiv and Lord Ganesh have many stories together. However, this story goes beyond the relationship between father and son and teaches a very important lesson. When the elephant head was procured and Lord Ganesha was brought back to life, Goddess Shiva headed Goddess Parvati's wish and made it a rule that before beginning any new endeavor, it is necessary to worship Lord Ganesh and get his blessings. However, Lord Shiva forgot that the rule applied to him as well. On one such occasion, Lord Shiva was heading out to war with the demons and proceeded to take his entire army along with him for it. But in the rush of leaving for the battle, he forgot to worship Lord Ganesh first. This led to them facing many problems even before reaching the battlefield. On the way to the location of the battle, the war carriage wheel was damaged and the progress came to a halt. This seemed like divine intervention of Lord Shiv and he suddenly remembered that he had totally forgotten to worship Lord Ganesh before heading for battle. Stopping all his troops, Lord Shiva proceeded to set up the puja then and there and completed the rituals worshipping Lord Ganesh. With Lord Ganesh blessing, Lord Shiva proceeded ahead. He and his armies were successful in defeating the demons completely. So, dear kids, the moral lies here. This also just goes to show that no matter who you are, once you have created a rule, it applies to everyone equally. Okay, so now we shall move ahead to the fourth part of the story, the story of Lord Ganesha's wisdom. Lord Ganesha is called the god of knowledge and wisdom, and there is a spectacular story that illustrates why it is so. Lord Ganesh had a younger brother called as Kartikeya. Both would get along well, but just like all other siblings, they would have moments of arguments and fights. On one such day, Lord Ganesh and Lord Kartikeya both ended up fighting a unique fruit in the forest and grabbed it together. They refused to share it with each other and started claiming the fruit for themselves. When they reached Mount Kailash and presented this predicament to Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, Lord Shiva made a proposition. He recognized the fruit and said that this fruit is known to grant immortality and extensive amount of knowledge when eaten by the rightful bearer of it. To choose who gets it, Lord Shiva proposed a challenge. He asked Lord Ganesh and Lord Kartikeya to circumvent their world 3 times. Whoever would do so first return to Mount Kailash would be the rightful owner of the fruit. Lord Kartikeya immediately hopped onto his pet peacock and flew speedily to complete 3 revolutions across the earth. Lord Ganesh was a little stocky compared to Lord Kartikeya, and his pet was a rat who wouldn't fly. Having listened to Lord Shiva's proposal properly, Lord Ganesh started walking around Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati and completed 3 circles around them. When asked by Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesha replied that Lord Shiva had asked them to circumvent their world, and for Lord Ganesh, his parents were more than the world. They were the entire universe. Right. So our parents are a god. They are our universe, huh? So Lord Shiva was touched and impressed by Lord Ganesh's wisdom and saw him as the rightful owner of the fruit. So the moral lies here. Not only does this story gives us a great example of how using our wisdom can help resolve a situation smartly, but it also teaches us that our parents should be given the respect and the love they deserve. So we should all love and respect our parents. Okay, now let's go to the next part, which is the story of Goddess Parvati's wound. This wonderful story is a great example of how the entire world is a single unit. Lord Ganesh was known to be a mischievous child, and he would indulge in a number of naughty activities. One time he came across a cat while he was playing and proceeded to mess around with it. He picked up the cat and threw it on the ground, pulling its tail and having fun with it. While the cat meowed in pain, Lord Ganesh failed to notice it and played around until he was tired and then came back home. On reaching Mount Kailash, Lord Ganesh was shocked to see Goddess Parvati lying down outside the home with wounds all over her body and crying in pain. Lord Ganesh rushed to her and asked her who did this, to which Goddess Parvati replied that Lord Ganesh himself had done this to her. The cat was actually a form of Parvati goddess, and she wanted to play around with her son, but Lord Ganesh treated her unfairly and ruthlessly, and his actions on the cat have reflected on his own mother. Lord Ganesh was utterly sorry for his behavior and took an oath to treat all animals in gentle manner with care and affection. So, my dear kid, the moral of the story is it teaches us a very important lesson that does unto others as you want others to do unto you, and this also include animals. So kids, be good to others no matter whether they are human being or they are animals, and trust me kids, the goodness will definitely come back to you. Okay, so now my dear kids, you need to stay connected with me. Okay, and in the next part I will come with other exciting and fascinating stories of Lord Ganesh. So before going to bed every day, play just fold your hands and pray to our Lord Ganesh. Okay, He will shower his blessings on all your kids. Okay, I'm also being a bit nostalgic when it comes to Lord Ganesh. Okay, so my dear kids, I wish you all the success. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.